You and your crew are stranded on the ice. Your captain has abandoned you all, leaving you, Robin Shaw, in charge. Can you make it out of this godforsaken cold? Will you keep your crew together, or will it all fall apart? My name is Lile. Welcome to Lile's Indie Corner. What will you do when steel hearts break and courage does abscond? I guess I'll learn to live a life out here, out in the pale beyond. The Pale Beyond is a visual novel resource management game developed by Bellular Studios and published by Fellow Traveler, in which an Arctic expedition gets trapped in the ice and it is now your job to keep everyone alive for 39 weeks. A big thank you to Bellular for providing me with the key. That was amazing. As you have already seen by now, this game is absolutely beautiful. The title sequence alone takes my breath away every time I see it. My eyes could never get enough of any scene I was in. Everything is so vibrant and alive, even though there are very few actual animations in the game and most of it is still images morphing into each other, visual novel style. But still, The Pale Beyond blew me away with its incredible art style. It is how I became aware of it in the first place. I was scrolling through Twitter one day and there were these screenshots and I was instantly in love. I didn't know what the story or the gameplay was, I just knew I wanted it. That was roughly a year ago now and I'm so happy that the images I saw then can live up to the reality I get now. The environments are so colorful, which feels weird because you are spending most of your time on the ice, a setting that should be very devoid of color. But Bellular managed to bring a variety to it all that I could never have predicted. Because ice isn't just a single block of frozen water, it's many blocks. It forms shapes, throws shade, there are spikes and sharp edges and smooth edges and all manner of interesting terrain. They used all that and then went ahead and put different sorts of light sources all around to give everything an interesting color splash. For this feat alone, you should play this. Look at this ship! Look at it! Likewise, the character design is simply out of this world. You will mainly interact with 9 NPCs throughout the entire game, and all of them are completely unique and instantly recognizable. But that is not only true for your main cast, but also for every other member of your crew. They are color-coded depending on what kind of role they fill on the ship. You have your sailors, of course, but also engineers and scientists. Their clothing makes it easy to remember who they are associated with. Also, you can lose people along the way, and since every single one has a unique face and personality, you will feel that loss in your bones and it will hurt. My personal favorite by design just has to be Lady Cordell. She has a dog with her most times, so how could I not love her? The few animations that are in the game help keep the scenes alive and give this sense of motion that is otherwise lacking. It's really amazing to me how much it tricked my brain into thinking there was so much more going on than there actually was. As you can tell, I'm in love with the art and the looks of The Pale Beyond, and it will definitely stay seared into my memory as one of the best looking games ever. Another area in which the game absolutely exceeds all expectations is the sound design. Since there isn't any voice acting, with one exception that I will get to in a second, or many animations, the sound design carries a lot of weight when it comes to creating drama. And let me tell you, it succeeds. You watch and especially hear how powerful the ice is when it crushes your sturdy ship like it was a brittle little stick. It lets you know that nature rules here, not humanity. When the ice comes for you, you feel it everywhere in your body, and it makes your head ring from its powerful sounds. And it's not like the game overuses this at all. Most of the time it's calm. The wind might be picking up, there are the sounds of the barking sled dogs you brought on this journey. But every once in a while, the game really ramps up the tension and the sound design is right there to smash all your hopes and dreams. It also does a very good job of making you feel cold, even when you're sitting in your comfortable gaming chair in front of the PC. I don't really know how, but it works. I really felt like I was trapped on a floating icy death trap. On the other hand, when you get together with your crew and you share a moment of levity or maybe just a simple but hot meal, the Pale Beyond makes sure you feel that too. Some hushed voices, the warmth of the furnace, and the bubbling of tasty soup. It's all there, and it feels like such a relief every time because you get some precious moments away from the cold and amongst friends. And none of it ever feels intrusive. It just fits. Which is what great sound design is all about. It doesn't demand your attention, it just immerses you into the world. The music works in a similar fashion. There are moments when it rears its head and tells you exactly what's happening. There is drama and fear and joy. Most of the time, though, it's simply traveling alongside you, making you feel comfortable in the game. And sometimes it's not there at all, and the work is done by sound design alone. Now remember when I said there was only one exception to the game not having voice acting? Well, that has to do with the music, and more specifically with the accordion, because one member of your crew has one such instrument that he plays during meals, which makes it all feel even more homely. But he's also not really happy with your leadership, so he sings a song about you, and how incompetent you are.
Captain has a frozen arse, hard as rock, no thawing soon.
Maybe not the nicest thing in the world to experience, but it sure comes as a fun surprise when there's suddenly a choir singing an actual song. One of the best moments in the game. There were some issues though with both sound and music editing. I'm gonna be super nitpicky here, but I do want to mention that sometimes sounds might cut out and you're left with complete silence for a moment. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't supposed to happen that way. Or in some screens, sounds are inexplicably quieter for reasons I don't quite get. With the music, you could often tell when a track would end and a new one began. This was especially noticeable when a calm scene suddenly veered into drama. The transitions were a little rough at points. But as I said, those are very, very minor points compared to all the amazing stuff that's going on here. And it does not take away anything from the enjoyment. At all. Quick shout out to my wonderful editor, the Potato Witch. If you are in the mood for more narrative-driven games, check out their video on Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song. The Pale Beyond marries visual novel to resource management, and I love it so much. The visual novel doesn't need much explanation, I guess. When you talk to people, their portrait appears, you read what they have to say, and then you can give different answers depending on how you think your Robin Shaw should respond. And depending on what you say, characters might react differently to you, and there are also choices to be made that impact the specific scenes or even the ending. This plays out beautifully and works like a charm. Through the loyalty system in the game, you are asked to pay attention to different character-specific needs and personalities. Loyalty only applies to the 9 main NPCs. They basically make up leaders for specific groups. For example, our good friend Templeton here is the head for the science crew, and acting to their benefit raises Templeton's loyalty, which becomes important with certain story points. Meaning, be nice to your crew, and they will be nice to you. Certain actions might give you loyalty for one character, but you may lose some to another. Such is the way of choices. You need to decide what kind of captain you want to be. Every week, people will come with requests or problems, and it's your job to sort these out. Your most important resources are decorum, food, and coal. You run out of any of them, and you lose the game. So, managing these resources becomes your most important task. At the beginning, everything is still available in spades. Once you get stuck on the ice, things become increasingly difficult and resources get very scarce. So it becomes a matter of careful planning to survive these harsh conditions. The game takes place over 39 weeks, and you play each week, meaning you have 39 chances to get things right or to really fuck them up. You assign crew to tasks, be it hunting, exploring, healing other crew members, or taking care of other little bibs and bobs around the camp. And of course, you will never have quite enough crew members to do everything you want to. It's a risk-reward system that works very well in my opinion. As I said before, people can die too, either from hunger, freezing, or wounds. If you do not send them to the medical tent, or if there isn't enough space for people in there, you lose someone. And it costs you not only your beauty sleep because you didn't pay enough attention, so now Tashi's dead, and you ask yourself why the heck that happened, and then you realize you just didn't count right, and you feel so super bad, and you want to reload, but you also want to stick to your decisions on this playthrough, and it really hurts, but you... Wait, where was I? Oh yeah, someone dies, you lose loyalty with the NPC group the character belonged to, and it also costs decorum. You do get some heartfelt eulogies of some of the other crew members, which make you feel even more guilty. There is a good pacing to the game, since you do move around on the ice. Every camp comes with its own challenges, so slowly but surely it gets more difficult to keep people warm and fed. It's a fun learning curve. Overall, I would say the game falls a bit on the easier side once you figured out every mechanic, especially compared to something like this war of mine, which to this day crushes my soul when I try to play it. I did encounter the occasional bug. Sometimes resource portraits would disappear, or I couldn't click on a sailor anymore. Then it was just a matter of leaving the menu and going back in. I also had this problem where the camera would just wildly jump around camp once I left certain conversations. But again, none of this impeded my fun, and I know that Bellular is still working on fixes. Overall, I just really enjoyed my time playing the game, and I kinda wanna do it again and maybe get a different ending. Which the game makes very easy for you through the save tree system. Just go back a week and change your decisions and you have a new branch. This makes frustrating failures much more manageable. The Pale Beyond tells the story of the crew of the Temperance, a ship sent out to find its sister, the Viscount, which was lost in the ice 5 years ago. We get hired by one Captain Hunt to join this rescue mission, or to at least find the research that the Viscount has left behind. We don't know much about who funded this expedition. The only one who does seem to know more is Mr. Templeton. We set sail towards the ice and we get stuck. Not completely unexpected, but morale-crushing nonetheless. And when Captain Hunt disappears, along with 3 other crew members, it suddenly falls to us to lead the crew. This is the basic setup for the game, and one I still find intriguing when I go back to the intro, which is in no small part due to the excellent writing. This game really finds the sweet spot for me with how much text there is to read compared to the gameplay parts. I never felt like a scene was rushed and that I didn't get all the relevant information, while at the same time I never became bored by a conversation. I've been entertained for the whole 12 hours I played this game. The characters feel alive and so unique. Every single one has their own way of talking, their own turns of phrases. I find this to be so impressive for a game without voice acting. Giving so many NPCs their own particular personalities and keeping that consistent over this playtime is astounding, and I can only congratulate Bellular and the narrative team for this. When you have a game like this with only text, there's always the temptation to overemphasize certain character traits to make them stand out against the rest. That can become very stale very quickly and makes interacting with that character a chore. None of that happens here. Every single one felt important. Their plights were real, their struggles were engaging. Of course, like in any other narrative game, you can be mean to everyone. But then I would just judge you, because none of these people deserve this. Well, maybe 1 or 2, but definitely not most. And while I may have my favorites, I was never annoyed by any character. We have a lovable cast of characters that go through a terrible experience. You bond with them, you feel close to them. You learn from them too, because a lot of these folks know these conditions better than you do. The game gives you quite a spectrum on how you want to lead. You can be a strict captain, looking out for the good of all instead of the individual. You can be a personable captain, befriending your crew, be a shoulder to lean on, or you can alienate everyone. But then again, I will judge you. I really felt like I was there with these people, having to make really tough decisions that felt appropriate for the setting, and especially the first time around made me feel scared because I didn't know the outcome. I could try to predict it, but that was all I could do. Try my best. And sometimes my best wasn't enough. The Pale Beyond gave me a journey that I loved to be on, and it gave me a great cast of characters to share it with. I can only say it again, I love this game, and it will 100% be one of my favorites this year, and maybe even of all time. I can't wait to see what Bellular does next. So, did I make you want to play the game? Are there any other genre marriages that you find absolutely intriguing? Let me know! Here's another video of mine talking about Somerville. Don't forget everyone, let's be weird together!